Hey, what's up, you guys? It's Connor, and today we're going to be going over the first 15 books that I have managed to read in 2022. So I'm sure you've noticed that my videos have been really sporadic / I haven't really been posting at all, but I've managed to read 15 books, so let's talk about them. Also, if you can hear the fan going, it is so freaking hot, I can't turn it off. The first book that I read in 2022 is Rare by Prior Prescott. Hi, Steves. Hi, baby. What's up? Yes. What? She's not used to book videos yet. What are you doing? You want to come up? This was the last book that I had to read for a contemporary romance project that I had assigned myself last year, and I didn't finish it until early this year. If you guys don't know, this follows a character named Alex. He is a very rich, well-to-do, 18-year-old. At the beginning of the book, he gets in trouble with the law, I believe, and so as punishment / just to get him out of the way, his father sends him to this wilderness rescue group, and during the course of the summer he is helping this rescue group and basically just cleaning out the different enclosures of the non-dangerous animals. While he's there, he meets a character named Noah, and in the blurb of the book it says that they have a bit of a summer fling, and then Noah calls it off. This book has two different timelines, so there's that one when they're younger, and then 20 years later or something, they meet up again, and then the story picks up from there. For this one, it wasn't my favorite of the contemporary male romances that I was reading for that reading project. This one, I was having a hard time getting behind the soulmatey love situation that was happening between Alex and Noah. To me, just didn't seem like they actually got along all that well. They didn't have all that much in common, and they didn't have much chemistry, in my opinion. So when they were talking about how they were going to be together or whatever, I was like, okay, whatever. You guys are 18, but the main character also reads like he's 27 in the beginning portion, so I wasn't really on board with any of that. Then in the time period where they meet up again and they continue their friendship, relationship, whatever, it gets a little derailed because of the reason that Noah calls things off. And I don't want to say it because I feel like it's a little bit of a spoiler, but Noah is being self-sacrificing basically when he calls things off, and the entire rest of the book focuses on that a lot. And I don't know, I just felt like it took away from the story. So when I finished the novel, I was a little dissatisfied. I think that the first half was too long because it's completely covered in the blurb, and it's half the book. And then the second half could have been fleshed out more and more focused, but it was fine enough. I ended up giving this book 2.5 stars. It had some things that I liked. I really liked Noah's best friend in the latter half of the story, and a couple of other things, but for the most part, it was just okay. After that, I picked up The Fowl Twins by Owen Colfer. This is a spin-off series / sequel series to the original Artemis Fowl series, which I read, well, at least I started reading it when I was a lot younger, but then I didn't end up finishing it until I was a bit older. At some point in the original Artemis Fowl series, Artemis ends up having younger twin brothers. This series follows those twin brothers. At the beginning of the book, the Artemis twins are just living on their family's secluded island estate. They're incredibly wealthy, if you didn't know. The twins end up encountering a couple of magical creatures, and then they have to go on this crazy adventure trying to figure out what the heck is going on, how to protect themselves, how to protect their family, and all of those things. While I think that you technically could start here with the series, I don't really recommend it. I think that you are benefited if you start with the Artemis Fowl series and then move into the sequel series. At least this first book really leans on you knowing about this world and knowing about at least some of the different creatures and the dynamic between the fowls and the magical people of this world. And also because this is following Artemis's brothers, I couldn't help but compare this series, or at least this first book, to the Artemis Fowl series, and in my opinion, I thought that the characters and the story and everything was stronger in the first series than this one. This one has Artemis's personality basically split up between his two brothers. One of them is the smart twin, and one of them is the kooky weird twin. Hi, Stevie. I feel like the smart twin wasn't actually all that smart. He didn't really have much planning going on. He just kind of was there and had some really cool glasses. I think that if the like more kooky twin had been the main character and we didn't even have his brother in there at all, it would have been at least a little bit more entertaining, I think, because the kooky twin, I think it's Beckett, it is the one that does all the planning. So I don't know. And then also there's a replacement for the Holly character. What is her name? I don't know, but I just didn't feel as connected with her or as invested in her as I did in Holly in the original series. So yeah. It's one of those things that I didn't enjoy this as much because I was constantly comparing it to the first series, which I have in my heart. If you want to know more of my thoughts on the different characters, I did a Goodreads review, and I'll leave that link down below, where I talk about the different characters and talk about how I felt about them, how they compared to the original series, how the plot compared. The villains in this are a little mustache twirly. It was good, but not the best. So I ended up giving this 3 stars. It's been a while, and I'm super rusty at doing wrap-ups. Next up, I read The God Engine by John Scalzi. This is a very, very quick novella, short story. In this science fiction world, Tef's god has beaten out other gods, and those, like, defeated gods are used by humans as the engines to their ships and allows them to travel throughout space efficiently. At the beginning of the book, Tef is assigned to go on this really, really secret mission, which is important to his god, and he has to use this recently defeated, or this very rebellious defeated god to power his ship. And during the course of this story, Tef starts to think more about the structure of the society and these minor gods that have been enslaved versus his god, all of those sorts of things. This short story took a way darker turn than I was expecting it to, because John Scalzi is, I think, well known for the humor that he includes in his stories. This one didn't really have that, and I don't think it was meant to either. I don't want to go into too much detail other than that, but I really did enjoy this. I think I ended up giving this like 3.5 stars. I'd probably pick it up again just because I thought it was so interesting. It's been a while since I've read a John Scalzi book, so I really should be reading more of them. I have more of them on my shelf. I have one right here. Lock in. I still have not read this book. After that, I was already behind in my Goodreads reading goal. I'm like 15 books behind, but whatever. I'll either make it or I'll drop my reading goal down. I picked up Art Matters, Because Your Imagination Can Change the World by Neil Gaiman, illustrated by Chris Riddell. This is a short speech, I believe, that was surrounding art and the importance of art, all of those things. Again, it's really, really short. Oh, I got this from my sister. Okay, so now I know going forward I need a couch so that you can sit next to me while we do this. All right, where was I? It is incredibly quick. It's a very like good feel motivator, kick in the butt to continue to create art that you enjoy and find important. I'm surprised after I read this I didn't like make a video, but yeah, I really like this. I gave it 4 stars, and I'll continue to revisit this every time I'm feeling a little unmotivated to continue making booktube videos. I then picked up The Last Graduate by Naomi Novik. This is the second book in the Scholomance series. The first book is called A Deadly Education, and at the beginning of the first book, you meet our main character, Galadriel. She has been in this school setting. It's in a side pocket dimension to our real world. Magic users all go to this school. It's incredibly dangerous because when they were creating this pocket dimension school, it was created so that no teachers actually had to be there, only students had to go, and the school itself would teach the students, and then they would graduate and come back to the real world. Well, something messed up, and demons and bad creatures got into the school, and so the students that are at the school are constantly being hunted by these different demons and are oftentimes killed while they're at school. A big challenge of going to the school is surviving the school, but not going to the school means that you'll almost assuredly die. So we're following Galadriel. She's at this school. She has no friends because she hasn't been able to showcase the type of magic that she has. She has like death magic. So anytime she requests a spell that's something simple, like she wants to clean up a plate, the school will give her this huge mass destruction spell that will like kill a bunch of people just so that she can get rid of this dirty dish. So she hasn't been able to really show off that she is incredibly powerful. The only way to survive this school is to make a group of friends / create an alliance that will help you get through the most dangerous portion of this school. Also, there's a guy that's in her year that keeps saving all of the students in the school, and so the school is running low on magic. It causes all sorts of problems. I really enjoyed the first book. We read it for the House Salt Book Club last year, I believe. Maybe it was the year before. But I wanted to continue along and read the second book because I really enjoyed this school setting and I really enjoyed learning about these characters. I really like Galadriel's really acerbic character, so that was something that I enjoyed in this book as well. I really liked in this book seeing her start to form her alliance and starting to figure out how they're going to survive. In this book, they're in the final year, and so they are going to have to go through the most dangerous portion of this school and escape. At the beginning of this book, she's forced to hang out with the freshmen that have just come in, that have no idea what they're doing and make a ton of mistakes, and she just has to deal with that and try to protect them. It's actually a really, really funny dynamic, and I was really enjoying that in this book. I also read this insanely quickly. I started it and finished it in, I don't know, a night, a day maybe. It is a little under 400 pages, but I haven't been reading a whole lot. You can see all the books that I've read have been incredibly short, so it was really nice to make it through a decent sized novel quickly. The only thing with this one is that the love interest situation takes a back seat in this book, and so I didn't really care about that as much, but everything else I was really, really enjoying, and I ended up giving this book 4 stars. I then picked up Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is the first in a middle grade series where it follows Amari. At the beginning of the book, her brother has been missing, and a lot of people have assumed that her brother got mixed up in something bad or like a gang or something, and that's why he's gone missing. Amari doesn't believe that for a second, and she thinks that he's stuck somewhere or something's happened, and she wants to know what the heck is going on. Everything changes when she's snooping, I can't exactly remember, but she finds a suitcase that's ticking in her brother's closet, and then she discovers this whole group of magical people, magic users, and it starts this cascade of events and adventures for Amari where she has to go into the society, prove herself, and make it through these different trials. Very a la the Morgan Crow series by Jessica Townsend. It's right off screen. But there are a lot of differences between the two books. I really enjoyed this. I wasn't super surprised because Mari from My Name is Marinez, I'll leave her link down in the description, really, really enjoys this book. I added it to my wish list because of that, and then she got it for me for Christmas. So I was really pumped to pick this one up because I already thought that I was going to really enjoy it, and I did. I really liked the writing, I really liked the characters, I really liked the characters that Amari interacts with. The plot was really, really interesting, and I really liked how it ended as well. It definitely has me intrigued to read the second book, which I'm not sure if it's out yet, but it's on my wish list, and I will get to it at some point. And the reason why I discovered that this is probably one of my favorite books that I've read this year so far is that I started reading negative reviews for it, and I was like, I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that. No. So I ended up making my rating for this 5 stars because I loved this book that much. I definitely recommend it if you like middle grade adventure stories involving kids getting magic and learning about different societies and everything like that. I was full on into this book. After that, I read Iceplanet Barbarians by, I don't remember her name, but we read this for the House Salt Book Club for whatever month that was. Yeah. I read it. This one follows a character, I don't even remember her name, but she is on a ship at the beginning of the book. These girls and her were stolen as like sex slaves almost. At some point, they like crash on this planet, and the whole thing is that the main character leaves the ship to try to find help or to find food or something like that, and they discover that the people, when they come to this planet, like slowly start dying, and so she has to find help. She meets the blue barbarian guy, they hit it off or whatever, and it's an alien erotica story. There's not really much to say about this one. It has a lot of sexy times between the main characters, and that's, I mean, yeah. I ended up giving this like 2 stars because I did read the whole thing, and I didn't DNF it, but I probably will not be continuing with this one. If you want to know more of our thoughts and feelings on this book, I will leave a link up in the card symbol to the live show where we talked about it. It will have spoilers, but I mean, there's not really anything to spoil with this, so watch it if you want to. After that, I read Among the Beasts and Briars. This one I listened to on audiobook because I had kind of a long commute for work a couple days in a row, and I decided I wanted to listen to something. This one follows a character named Cirrus? It's been a while since I listened to it, but she's living in Aloria, which she is super safe there. Aloria is this incredibly nice, thriving, safe kingdom. She's good friends with the royal children of this city kingdom, but the kingdom is surrounded by this wood, and the wood is evil, and the people of this kingdom are not allowed to go into the wood. You find out early on that Cirrus, I can't remember how to say her name, at some point has entered the wood, and so because she has an experience in there, she's been like partially cursed. She can, using her blood, influence plants and stuff like that. At the beginning of the book still, the coronation is attacked by the wood. The main character is forced to re-enter the wood in search for help, to try to help her people and help her friends and save the day, basically. Along the journey, she's accompanied by a fox, and you just follow them as they're going through the wood, trying to survive because there are these evil creatures, evil beings. Some people she knew from her past are these evil beings, and she has to deal with all that and try to save the day. I really enjoyed this one. I don't read a whole lot of like fairy tale feeling vibey books, so every once in a while I like to sprinkle one in because it's good to mix things up. I really enjoyed this one for that. It definitely hit those markers, and I was just really along for the ride and enjoyed seeing her go through all these different trials and meet these different people and try to get help and all those things. I ended up giving this book 4 stars. It was just a really enjoyable read that I would probably reread it again if I wanted just a quick, simple, fairy tale-esque story. Moving on. After that, I read A Song Below Water, I think, by Bethany C. Morrow. This one follows a character named Tavia. At the beginning of the book, you find out that she is a siren, and in this world, it's like our world, but if certain magical creatures were real and were known to the general public, sirens are hated. The reason for it, I'm not exactly sure why, but it's basically just they're hated because they are able to tell people what to do if they use their siren song, and most of the sirens are black women, and it might be that only black women can be sirens, but I think it's just the vast majority of them are black women, and so they're like double hated by society because of that. Because of those things, and that Tavia would be in danger of being persecuted and hated because of that, she hides the fact that she's a siren, and she is just trying to live her life without anyone finding out besides the people that she trusts in her family. She has a sister who's not really a sister. She came to live with them like a year before the beginning of the book, maybe 2 years, and they're just thick as thieves. They're best friends, and they call each other sisters. Her name is Effie, and Effie she plays a mermaid at the medieval fair that comes into town every year. She just has her own stuff going on. Still at the beginning of the book, a guy who murdered a woman is acquitted because he brings up the defense that she was a siren, and so it was like self-defense or something like that. Really sketchy, really awful, and it starts this cascade of events of people protesting and marching and etc., etc. Tavia feels like she needs to maybe get involved, but it's dangerous for her to get involved because she is a siren. It just follows all of those things. Meanwhile, Effie is starting to go through her own stuff. It just all, keeps building and building until it explodes. I ended up enjoying this. I think my favorite part of this story was the sisterhood, the friendship between Tavia and Effie. It was incredibly strong, and I just really enjoyed seeing that come through again and again throughout this story, throughout the different things that the girls have to go through. They each go through some pretty major events in their lives. They're always there for one another. That was awesome to see. I think because it's tackling so many big things that this book has a hard time fully fleshing out all of them, because there's just not enough space in the book to cover all of these really, really heavy topics. It's talking about racism, it's talking about sexism, it's talking about the intersectionality of those two things. There's other things that are involved as well. There's also things about the world that I just had questions on. So people hate these sirens, right? And then there's also a group of people that anyone can be one of these things as long as they're born under these particular set of circumstances, but they do something similar to sirens sirens, but aren't hated because they don't do it as directly and anyone can be one. And then there are gargoyles and other mythological creatures, and I wanted to know kind of like why certain ones were there and certain ones were not there. I would have liked that also fleshed out. I'm using my hands a lot because I don't have the book to like keep myself from gesticulating. But I just had a lot of questions. But I still really enjoyed this story, and I gave it like 3.5 stars. I think that this is the first book in a series, and I'm definitely going to continue along and pick up the second book. After that, I picked up and read Book Lovers by Emily Henry. This was read for the House Salt Book Club for whatever month that was. This one follows the main character. I don't remember her name. Nora. She's a big shot literary agent in New York City. She's lived there basically forever with her sister. Her sister is the most important person in her life. At the beginning of the book, Nora's sister, Libby, requests that they go on a vacation, and Libby never asks for those things. Libby has never asked to really like leave the city. They've only left together one time, and that was a whole ordeal. And so when Libby comes and begs her sister to go on this vacation with her, Nora gives in and goes on the vacation. Whilst on vacation, Libby is kind of pushing the narrative that Nora is going to become like one of the main characters in the romance stories that she has represented for her clients. Nora ends up running into this guy named Charlie. And Charlie is someone that she already knows from the book publishing industry. Charlie is an editor and has had a bad run-in with Nora in the past. He's like kind of insulted Nora's clients before. It's a whole thing. During the course of the story, you follow Nora on this vacation, constantly running into Charlie and just trying to have a good time with her sister, etc., etc. Rom-com ensues. I loved this book. I really, really enjoyed it. It's exactly what I was hoping it would be and was self-aware of what it was doing, so I even appreciated it for that. Charlie is this really brooding, kind of acerbic book snob, and Nora is not about that and won't take that from him. And so I just really enjoyed that dynamic and watching them interact throughout the course of this story. It's actually kind of long, but it didn't feel like that when I was reading it because I got so invested in these characters. I'll leave a link up in the card symbol as well as down in the description if you want to check out our live show. It will be spoilery, but I mean, it's a romance book, so I don't know how much you're actually going to get spoiled. Suffice it to say, I really, really enjoyed this. I definitely want to pick up People We Meet on Vacation by the same author, because this one was read for the book club last year and I never read it because I missed the live show. So yeah, I really enjoyed this one, gave it 5 stars, and I'm really excited to pick up this one. I heard this one's not as good, but still, I don't care, I'm excited. After that, I actually listened to this on audiobook, but I have the physical copy, so I'm just going to hold it up. And that is Aristotle and Dante Dive into the Waters of the World by Benjamin Aliri-Sanz. This one continues Aristotle and Dante Discover the Secrets of the Universe, which I read years and years ago now, and enjoyed that book. So I wanted to continue along and read the sequel, so I did. I listened to it on audiobook. If not for the audiobook and a long commute, I don't know if I would have finished this book. It's actually quite long, and I think it's much longer than it needed to be. This book picks off almost immediately after the first book finishes, and we continue to follow Aristotle and Dante as they are living their lives. They're seniors now, and so now they're starting to think about their futures and colleges and what they want to do with their lives and what are the next steps. It also includes them thinking about what that means for their relationship, their friendship, etc. This book is so repetitive, and because of that, I started to get incredibly annoyed at it. They are constantly talking about how much they love each other and mean to each other and all that stuff. It was just way too much too often. It would have been better had those been fewer and farther between, just so that more other things could be happening. I actually became way less invested in Aristotle and Dante together as I was in Aristotle just being his own person. And so when I was reading the story, I became way more interested and focused on Aristotle making friends, coming into his own, figuring out who he was as an individual than I was about what that would mean for Aristotle and Dante together. I don't know if that was supposed to happen, but that's definitely where my brain went while reading it or listening to it. Now, that's not to say that there weren't parts in this book that got me a little choked up or a little upset or a little teary-eyed. I just wasn't as invested in this one as I was in the first book, and so I ended up giving this book like 3 stars because I think I would have DNF'd it, and I was not as invested, like I said. That's disappointing for me too, because Nook's breathing, if you can hear that. What is it, Bubs? We're almost done. What was I saying? Oh, it was disappointing because I've really enjoyed Aristotle and Dante, Discover the Secrets of the Universe, as well as The Inexplicable Logic of My Life, but this one didn't hold up to those, in my opinion. After that, I picked up and read Book of Night by Holly Black. It follows a character named, I forgot her name, Charlie. Lots of Charlies in this wrap-up. Charlie has been trying to get out of the con artist game for a while now. She now works as a bartender. She's just trying to make ends meet and live a, straight and narrow life. Obviously, that doesn't happen. And at the beginning of the book, she gets mixed up in a much larger situation than she originally thought it was going to be, because a woman requests that she locate the woman's husband, who's been missing / has kind of run away. She reluctantly takes that job, and because she goes on this job, dominoes start to fall, and she starts to get involved in bigger things, and questions start coming to light that she has to then answer. It's just a huge mess. In this, version of our world, people called glomists are basically magicians that can manipulate shadows for different prices and such. There are 4 main different types of these magicians, these glomists, and they each specialize in something different. Throughout the course of the story, she's getting mixed up with these different glomists, and she ends up basically going up against a very, very powerful, rich, well-to-do family. Story continues from there. Although I read this one fairly quickly because it is quite short, I wasn't really loving it all that much. I wasn't super invested in what was going on. I think that there could have been a lot better development of characters and of the world, and so it just wasn't what I was hoping that it would be. We did talk about this book in a live show. I'll leave that up in the card symbol as well as down below if you want to check it out to know all of our thoughts and feelings about this book. We go into the different characters, how we felt about them, how we felt about Charlie's relationship with her sister, and all of that. We talked about the magic system in general, the plot in general, all the things, the writing. It just wasn't something that I was hoping that it would be. So in the end, I gave this book like 3 stars. It was fine, but it's not one of my favorites, and I probably will never reread this. So I'm probably going to get rid of this one at some point, but I read it. Next up, I picked up Cattle Stop by Kit Oliver. This is a male-male contemporary romance that follows a character named Cooper. At the beginning of the book, he is on his way to head up to a new job at a farm in the Midwest, I believe, or something like that. On the way, he stops off at his best friend's place, who is a cattle rancher. He ends up staying for a little bit to help out before he goes on to that other job. At the beginning of the book, he shows up and he finds out that the house that everyone stays in is under construction, and his room is particularly unlivable. So you find out that while he's living here, helping with these cattle and trying to make improvements to the farm before he, moves along, because he's a bit of a nomad. Sorry if things shifted. My memory card ran out of space, so I had to find another one. Anyway, I was talking about Cattle Stop. Did I say Cattle Stop or Cattle Shop? I don't know. Cattle Stop. So Cooper is staying at this cattle ranch. He's staying there for a little bit, but he has to share a room with this guy named Whit. Way back, I don't even know how many years ago, the two got drunk and hooked up, and since then, and even before, things are weird between them and uncomfortable, and Whit, at least in Cooper's mind, hates him, and vice versa. And so, during the course of him staying at this ranch, romance, misunderstandings, non-communication ensues, and it's a whole mess. Is this the most memorable book I've ever read? No. Are the characters incredibly frustrating because they just don't talk? Yes. But I just was really enjoying this, and I think that I would go back to this book and read it again just to experience the angstiness that they are and how frustrating they are, just cuz, when I'm in the mood to do that. So I ended up giving this book 3 stars. It's not the best thing ever, but it was exactly what I was wanting at the time that I picked it up. It hit all the angsty romance check boxes for me, so 3 stars. I'm definitely gonna pick up other things by this author just to see. I know that there's like a spin-off where it follows the other 2 characters, which is they're not a couple, but they're basically a couple. They should be a couple, but they're a straight couple, and I guess you follow them during that. But I'd be curious to see what else that Kit Oliver comes up with. The 14th book that I read in 2022 is Glitterland by Alexis Hall. This is the same author who wrote Boyfriend Material, which I read last year, I think, and enjoyed. So I wanted to continue and read something else by them. This one is set in a world that the author writes in called the Spire something? A Spires story. So the Spires universe. And so a lot of these characters all live within the same universe and I guess potentially make cameos in the other books. So I picked up this one to start off with. This one follows a character named Ash. He's a successful author living in London, I believe. He writes pulp crime fiction, and at the beginning of the book, you find out that he's really depressed. He has been going through it. He has not been having a good time. His ex-boyfriend is pining over his ex-boyfriend, who's now engaged to his female literary agent. So everything to do with Ash and his whole life is a bit of a mess. At the beginning of the book, still, they're at the ex-boyfriend's bachelor party, stag party. He meets a character named Darian. And Darian is from Essex. You just follow them as they figure things out. And yeah. Basically, Ash makes a whole bunch of mistakes and Darian is the cutest thing on the planet. And you just watch everything unfold. After reading this one, I think Alexis Hall has a bit of a formula, maybe? I don't know. I've only read 2 books. But the main character is always the more surly one, the one that's kind of a dick. The love interest is a cinnamon roll that you just hope gets a good life and you want them to be happy. And that's exactly what happens in here. I think, though, in this one, it didn't work for me as well as it did for me in Boyfriend Material, which is right here, because Ash is, I think, more of a dick than the main character in Boyfriend Material. Ash is really depressed, and so he doesn't treat people the best, but even when he's feeling better, or at least feeling not like he's spiraling, he's still a dick. He's still, like, kind of a bad guy. And so I didn't really root for them to get together because I really liked Dorian. Dorian, like I said, is incredibly sweet, incredibly lovable. He just is just a kind soul. I didn't want them together because Darian deserves so much better. But anyway, I did enjoy this story. I'm definitely looking forward to trying more out by this author and see what else is in store in the Spires stories. I have one more book that's set in that same world, but it's really, really short. This one's called Waiting for the Flood. I don't know what this one's about, but I have it. But for my first dip into this world that Alexis Hall writes in, I enjoyed it. Oh, also, I really enjoyed that even though Boyfriend Material was written much later than this book, there's a bit of a nod in this book to that book, and I love when authors do that. So I ended up giving this one 3 stars. And the 15th thing that I read in 2022 is The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis. This is a science fiction novel that we read last month for the House Salt Book Club July. In this one, we follow the first sister. She is not named throughout the course of the book. She is living on this ship. At the beginning of the book, you find out that the sisterhood is comprised of different groups of people that are in this religious, organization. The sisters are not allowed to speak. I don't know how to describe. They're like holy sex objects, I guess. The mother is the head of the religious group. Then the sisters, like I said, are these girls who are not allowed to speak out loud. They actually can't speak out loud. The aunties are the ones that are able to speak, and then there's cousins who basically serve on these ships as crew members. They upkeep the ship for all of the military army men and everything like that. I forgot to say that these ships are spaceships, not like boat ships. They travel throughout the galaxy and fight different groups of people. There are 2 main groups. There are the people that live on Earth and Mars, and then there are the people that live on Venus and Mercury, and their associated ships and moons and everything like that. The main character, the first sister, is a part of the Earth and Mars group. You find out that she's getting off this ship, but she gets sucked back onto the ship and she has to fight for her position as the first sister. Not like physically fight, but she has to try to make sure that she maintains that status, because otherwise she'll be used for sex by everyone on the ship that wants to have sex with her. She doesn't want that to happen. We're also following a character named Leto, and he is a part of the Venus-Mercury group of humans. Leto was a soldier, and he was like a very specialized type of soldier who fights in groups of 2. He is tasked with basically hunting down his partner. His fighting partner, I think they're called like duelists or something like that. He has to hunt Hero down and kill them, as well as something else, but whatever. I'm getting too much in the weeds. This is the first book that the House Salt Book Club has unanimously enjoyed. I think everyone gave it at least 4 stars, and that in itself is a feat. That said, I personally really enjoyed this. I really liked following the 2 different characters. I thought that both of them were well balanced. The 2 characters will like end on cliffhangers and you go back to the other character, and by the time you get back to the other character, you were like, oh yeah, I'm supposed to be really stressed out. I'm really invested in both of these characters. Towards the beginning, you're more invested in the first sister, and then I think in the later half, you're more invested in Leto because, as Amari said in the live show, like all the action happens from Leto's perspective. So you end up enjoying both for different reasons. I really enjoyed learning about the different cultures of humans and how their worlds were set up. Both are corrupt, both have problems. I'm really looking forward to reading more in this series to find out how they're going to address those things. Like I said, I really enjoyed this world. I enjoyed learning about the ships, how they function, how the sisterhood functions. I enjoyed the pacing because I was just reading this book so fast. I started it in the morning and finished it by the time we had the live show, which was 8 p.m. Jet. It's thundering and Jet barks at thunder, so I apologize for that. But other than that, I don't really have much else to say. I really enjoyed basically everything about this, and I gave it 4 stars. I had little issues here and there, but nothing major, so I definitely recommend this one. This one would be good, I think, if you were wanting to dip your toes into science fiction, because I don't think it's really heavy on the science fiction, but those elements are definitely there, so I recommend. So those are the first 15 things that I read in 2022. If you like this video, please give it a big thumbs up, and comment down below if you've read any of these books that I talked about. What were your thoughts on them? If you have any differing opinions than me, let me know those as well. Anything else you want me to know, leave it down below, and I will talk to you guys next time.